Welcome guys to another one of my videos. Today it's gonna be another fantasy football video. I know I've only just uploaded a fantasy football video yesterday where I talked about the weekly news in the NFL. If you haven't checked the video out, the link is down below in the description. Go check it out. I've talked about the Browns and them firing Hugh Jackson and a couple of trades just before the trade deadline. So make sure to check it out. I think it's a pretty good video, but you be the judge of that. And today I'm gonna do the predictions of the NFL this week. I'm gonna continue doing this in two parts now. So one part is for the weekly news in the NFL, and the second part is gonna be a prediction video like this one. But this week is kind of special because I split them up over 2 days. Usually I'm gonna do both of my videos on Wednesdays. I just didn't get my predictions done till yesterday. So sorry about that this is the video for today, but it's gonna change from the coming week, so please excuse me in that part. But right now I'm just gonna jump right into the prediction stuff, and yeah, I'll see you when I've loaded up the screen. Alright guys, so now I'm back into the familiar screen for my predictions right now. You know, I'm gonna bet on, I think this week it's a 13-fold bet for every winning team this week. I'm gonna do the same thing as last week. I'm gonna go through all the games. I'm gonna explain my reasoning behind my pick for this game. I'm gonna put it on one bet slip there. I'm gonna put €1 down on it. Hope all my predictions are correct to get a good amount of money out of it. But also want to give you my thoughts on every game of this week in the NFL. And of course, I'm starting off with the Thursday night game, which is between the Oakland Raiders and the San Francisco 49ers. Right now, the Oakland Raiders have basically traded away their best players, being it Khalil Mack just before the season to the Chicago Bears, and now Amari Cooper to the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know where this team is going. I think Jon Gruden is going to go for a complete overhaul of this team. And right now, they don't really have anybody on the offense that might get the job done to actually make them win a game. Derek Carr doesn't look really good. For me, he is not really a starter in the NFL anymore with the performances that he's showed in the last couple of weeks in the NFL. I think he's more of a backup. They have to go and look for another quarterback for the future. And of course, they brought in Jordy Nelson, who didn't really show that much either this year. Of course, it might be part of Derek Carr being their quarterback. And Marshawn Lynch, of course, is on IR right now, so they don't really have an offense. They don't really have a defense. So I don't know what this team is going for. And on the other side are the San Francisco 49ers, who have really big problems with injuries right now. Of course, they already have to start CJ Beathard as their starting quarterback after Jimmy Garoppolo got injured. And now it looks like CJ Beathard can't even start in this game because of a wrist injury. He's 50-50 for now, so I'm not really sure how to feel about that for the San Francisco 49ers. But still, with the Oakland Raiders trading away basically their best players, I'm still giving the edge to the San Francisco 49ers in this game because they still have the running backs for it. So even if they don't have CJ Beathard start the game, they can still run the ball, other than the Oakland Raiders, because Doug Martin didn't really show that much the last couple of years. And yeah, I'm just giving the edge to the San Francisco 49ers. They didn't look bad without Jimmy Garoppolo the last couple of weeks. They had some close games. I didn't expect that to happen. I talked about that last week. So I think the 49ers are actually pretty decent without their starting quarterback. And now moving on to Sunday, the Atlanta Falcons against the Washington Redskins. The Redskins are a pretty hot team right now. They have a pretty good offense rolling there, and the Atlanta Falcons are coming back to being a pretty good team. Actually, the last two games they played were pretty good, but I don't think they can beat out the Washington Redskins just yet. because the Falcons have a couple of problems on defense and the Redskins are pretty good on offense right now with Adrian Peterson and Chris Thompson at running back. Of course, at the quarterback position with Alex Smith, he looks pretty good in there with the Redskins. And they have a couple of receivers that can be pretty good. So I'm giving this to the Redskins right now. If the web page is loading. I'll be right back, guys. I'm going to fix this. Alright, I'm back. So as I've said, I'm gonna go with the Redskins in this game. And yeah, next game up, as you can see, is the Chicago Bears against the Buffalo Bills. Of course, the Bills are not looking good, and nobody really knows who's gonna start this week. I think it might be Nathan Peterman. So when you already hear that Nathan Peterman is gonna start a game, there's no way that you're gonna bet on the Bills in this part. So I'm gonna go with the Chicago Bears. The Bears are looking pretty good right now. They have a pretty good offense going with a good running back, or two good running backs actually. A pretty good quarterback, some good wide receivers, a good tight end, good defense. So they look pretty good this year. Of course, I've said good so much this for the Bears right now, but I don't think they're great. I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're mediocre. They're just a good team. Overall, they are good at every position. They're not, maybe I would say Khalil Mack is one of the greatest players, of course, but still the defense is overall just good. Next game up, divisional play, a game between the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. The Lions, of course, just traded away Golden Tate. I've talked about this yesterday. And yeah, I don't see the Lions as that good of a team. I've talked about this a lot so far this season, that the Lions are not as good, or I don't see them as good. But the Vikings are looking pretty decent. They had a mediocre game against the Saints last week on Sunday night, but still, it's for sure enough against the Lions this week. So I'm gonna give this one to the Vikings, especially when they're playing at home. So nothing more to say there. Another game on Sunday. I think there's a clear favorite here between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cleveland Browns. Of course, the Browns just got rid of their head coach and offensive coordinator. I've talked about the firing of Hugh Jackson in my news report yesterday. So, I don't know how they're gonna do with Greg Williams as their interim head coach, but I don't see them having any chance against the Kansas City Chiefs, even when they're playing at home. The Chiefs are just the best team in the AFC right now. No way the Browns are winning this game. And next up are the New York Jets against the Miami Dolphins. Two teams I don't think are very strong this year. The Jets have struggled a lot this year. Of course, they had a couple of problems with injuries this year already, but they didn't come back like they did, or how they played last year. Last year they looked really good with a team nobody expected them to be actually good, but they were decent at least. But going up against the Dolphins have recouped a little bit after they had a couple of tough losses 3 or 4 weeks ago, but right now they're looking better and better. So I'm gonna give this one to the Miami Dolphins right now. As you can see, it's just the favorites right now, and I see why they are the favorites. I don't know if this week I actually have a game where I wouldn't pick the favorite, maybe one or two, but I'll come to that one later. Of course, now coming to one of the biggest rivalries in the game right now between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, this time in Baltimore. If they would have played in Pittsburgh, I would have given this one to the Steelers. But since they are playing in Baltimore and the Steelers aren't really a good road team, I'm going to give this one to the Ravens. The Ravens didn't look that good the last couple of games. They looked really good 3-4 weeks ago. The last game that they looked decent was the game that they had against the Saints. Just because of the defense that they played in this game. But still, I'm going to give this one to the Ravens just because the Steelers are usually pretty bad on the road. And in a divisional matchup, I think the Ravens have the slight edge in this one. But I think it's a close one. I think it's closer than the spread of 3 points right now. But yeah, my favorite is the Ravens in this game. Next one up is another divisional matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers. The Bucs are not looking good right now. They benched Jameis Winston. Now Matthew Fitzpatrick is back at quarterback as their starter. They already announced it that he's going to start this week against the Panthers. If he can come back to his form at the start of the season, the first 2-3 games of the year, he was just phenomenal. If he can come back to that, the Bucs actually have a chance. But right now, how they played the last couple of weeks, I don't give them any chance against the Panthers. The Panthers are actually getting better and better each week. They've struggled a little bit in between week 4 and 6, somewhere around there. But they have come back to being a pretty good team and a contender for the NFC South. So I'm going to give this one to the Panthers. They are playing at home as well. So I think the Panthers are a clear favorite here. And now moving on to the Sunday evening games. And the first game here are the Houston Texans against the Denver Broncos. Of course, it's an interesting matchup because Denver has just traded Demaryius Thomas from the Broncos to the Texans. So he's immediately going up against his former team, which is kind of rare to see someone going up against his team just, I think it's 5 days after he's been traded. So I don't know if Demaryius Thomas will actually play in this game, but I think he might actually be a good option for the Houston offense right now. With Will Fuller just going down with an ACL tear last week, I think he might have to go. But as you can see here, the Broncos are actually favored in this matchup. I don't see it. I see the Houston Texans as a really good team right now, and they are in form. They have had a good stretch of great games so far in the last couple of weeks. So I don't know why the Broncos are favored in this game. I'm giving this one to the Houston Texans, even if they're playing in Denver, but I don't know. The Houston Texans defense is great this year. They had really great games. The last, I don't know, from week 2 till week 7. Week 8 wasn't that good, but okay, one-off game. And the offense is also pretty decent with Deshaun Watson as their quarterback. Of course, they still have DeAndre Hopkins as their wide receiver. They now have Demaryius Thomas as their number 2. They have Keke Coutee as another wide receiver. They have Lamar Miller as the running back and Alfred Blue as their backup running back. So I don't know why the Houston Texans aren't favored in this game. Of course, the Broncos are still a good team, but I see the Texans way ahead of the Broncos right now. And the fact that the Broncos just traded away Demaryius Thomas still adds to the fact that the Broncos are lower ranked than Texans right now. But now moving on to the next game between the LA Chargers and the Seattle Seahawks. The Chargers are struggling right now a little bit. They really haven't found into the season yet. One of the reasons might be that Joey Bosa isn't playing, which might add a little bit more of a pass rush to their defense, because they really struggled on defense so far this season. The offense is decent, mediocre. So, I'm not a fan of the Chargers right now. There are a couple of players in there that are relevant to fantasy right now, but in a if you're looking at the W's in the real game, the Chargers aren't really there yet with the whole team. So I'm gonna give this one to the Seahawks. So the Seahawks are still not what they were when they went to the Super Bowl in 2 consecutive years. But they are still pretty decent. Of course, a lot of that comes from Russell Wilson as their quarterback, that he can avoid the pressure that their opponents get on them on defense. So still, I see the Seahawks being better than the LA Chargers right now. So I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. And after that, one could argue game of the week, but there are Sunday 2 really great games at the end there. Of course, LA Rams against the New Orleans Saints. 2 really good teams right now. Some have ranked the Rams at number 1 overall in the league right now. Others have the Saints over the Rams at number 1 in the league. But most people have the Rams and the Saints at number 1 and 2 in the entire NFL right now. So a matchup between these 2 teams right now is just beautiful to see. It's going to be a really close game. It's going to be high power offense, really good defense on both sides, as the Saints have come back with a really good offense after they traded for Eli Apple 2 weeks ago. I'm really excited for this game. Of course, I'm a Saints fan. You've probably seen me wearing a Saints hat or something in my past videos. So I'm really excited about this game. Not just because I'm a Saints fan, but I'm going to give this one to the Saints because they are playing at home in the Superdome. And I think their offense is, or not their entire offense, I think just the fact of Drew Brees, like it was last week against the Minnesota Vikings. Drew Brees at quarterback, defenses have to kind of protect against the pass with Drew Brees on the opposite side of them. So it leaves a lot of space for the running backs and all that stuff, just because you have to protect against the deep pass by Drew Brees, or just any passing by Drew Brees can be just can ruin the other team's game. So they have to protect against everything. Of course, the Saints have 2 great running backs with Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. So on offense, the Saints can do everything. So defense has to protect against everything. And you can't just protect against everything. Not even the best defense can do that. So I think the Saints are going to put up a lot of points, as will the Rams. It's going to be a high-scoring game, as you can see right now on the screen here as well. The over-under is 59.5 points, which is insanely high for an NFL game. But I think in the end, just because of Drew Brees again in there. Of course, it didn't have the numbers in the last game against Minnesota, but it's going to be about the same this week against the Rams again. He's not going to have the insane numbers. I don't think he's going to have 400 passing yards and 5 touchdowns in this game. It's going to be more like 260 passing yards and maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns. One of the main parts in this game probably will be the run game, which will be split between Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram in this game. But I think these are the reasons that the Saints are going to win against the Rams and give them their first loss in the season. Of course, on the Rams side, there's going to be a huge passing game. I think that Todd Gurley will not have the biggest game fantasy-wise and stats-wise, but I think it's going to be more of a game for Cooper Kupp and all these guys. If Cooper Kupp can come back to the active roster, which is really likely to be this week. So I think Cooper Kupp will have a really good game this week. I think he will probably put up 2 touchdowns, probably around 150 yards. So if you have him on your team, put him in your lineup. I think he's a lock for this week against a pretty poor Saints defense against the pass, but I know they got better, but still in the slot, the Saints are really, really weak against the pass. So Cooper Kupp, really good start this week. I think he might be actually the best wide receiver in fantasy points this week. So go ahead and start him. And now last game on Sunday night, another really good game. Of course, Brady against Rodgers. What else can be said? Green Bay Packers against the New England Patriots. Of course, the Packers are struggling a little bit. Of course, they had problems with injuries a little bit, but I think all the players are back now on offense at least. So the Packers are back at full strength, but still they are not as good as the Patriots right now. The Patriots, of course, are still missing Sony Michel, but they made up really well last week with the play of Cordarrelle Patterson, which was a pretty great move by Bill Belichick, again, to put in a wide receiver as your running back, and he put up really good numbers last week. I don't know if it will be the same this week, but still, with Cordarrelle Patterson and James White in their backfield, they don't lack anything in the running back department. Of course, Tom Brady as their quarterback, pretty awesome. The wide receivers are great. Rob Gronkowski, still the old Gronk, putting up the big numbers. Their defense is getting better and better. And, of course, Green Bay, I've talked about it. Most of their wide receivers are back. They now have actually a problem that they don't know who to start at wide receiver anymore. I think they have 5 guys who can produce starting wide receiver numbers, which is a really good problem to have in the NFL. But still, their team is not quite there yet to be a real contender. I think they are still in the running for their divisional title, or to be number 1 in the division, to get into the playoffs. Not really the divisional title, as it is decided in the divisional round, but still, the Packers are not quite there yet to be in one of the top teams in the NFL, whereas the Patriots definitely are. So I'm going to give this game to the Patriots. And another fact, of course, again, is that they're playing in Foxborough. So New England at home is really tough to beat. So Patriots it is again. And Monday Night Football, Tennessee Titans against the Dallas Cowboys. Well, both teams are kind of struggling right now. The Dallas Cowboys are getting better, but still, Dak Prescott is not the Dak Prescott we saw 2 years ago. But maybe the addition of Amari Cooper helps them to kind of get Dak Prescott back to where he was, giving in one more target in the offense. But the fact that I'm giving this game to the Dallas Cowboys really shows that the Tennessee Titans are really lacking in every department there is this year. They don't perform at all. They don't have a good running back. They don't have good wide receivers. They don't have a good defense. Marcus Mariota is not showing what he can do. They just lack a lot of stuff in about every department there is on their team. The Titans are not looking good right now. So I'm giving this one to the Dallas Cowboys. I think it might be closer than it actually says right here, but I might go with the plus 5.5 for Tennessee in this game. But in the money line, I'm going with the win for the Cowboys right now. They're just better. And of course, in the end, right here, sorry guys, I had my my odds in the decimal system right here, but the odds for 13-fold bet are 356.84, which would make, if I bet €1 again, a return of 339.01 euros again. Not too bad, not that much as last week. Of course, one less game this week, but still, that's my predictions for this week. I'm gonna place this bet right now. I hope this one works. Last week wasn't too far off. I had 2 games out of 14 wrong, which is, in my opinion, is a really good percentage to get right in the NFL. I think I had 2 picks which were not for the favorite, and both of them won. So I'm really happy with that. I hope that this time I'm getting 13 out of 13. I think there might be a couple of games in there that might go a little different than I think. I think one of the ones that I am not sure about is, of course, the Saints. But the Saints against the Rams, it's really a toss-up, but I'm just seeing the Saints a little bit in front there. But I think the other ones for me are a pretty sure thing. But of course, as you know, in the NFL, everything can happen. Someone or some key player on any team can get hurt, which would affect the game greatly on the other side. So, yeah, I've done my predictions. Let me know down below in the comments what you think. If you see another result for any game, or if you disagree with any of my comments on the games, please let me know in the comments. I really would like to hear your opinions on the games. But for now, this is it. I hope I'll see you in my next video. But until then, bye.